Right. So, good evening, everyone, and welcome to round number 6 for Tier 1 here in PGS. Sorry about the slightly delayed start, just had to quickly sort some details out. I believe the first car on track is an Alpine, so we'll see if we can find that very car that's on track currently at the moment. It's Linguini, currently is your first car. Indeed it is. Hopefully everyone is doing well tonight. Welcome to the coverage of round 6 from PGS Tier 1. Once again, it is my dulcet tones on the commentary tonight. As I say, because I believe that, once again, the Casper, the usual commentator, is unavailable. So, he's actually away enjoying a holiday in Poland. I think he'll be back for next week's round. But yeah, hopefully everyone is doing well today. And we'll be enjoying the action here for the action around Losail in Qatar. Very much more known as a bike track more than it is known as an F1 track. Obviously, we've seen the last couple of years it's been used in real life F1 in terms of the coverage in real life. It's an interesting one, this track. It's a place where you can definitely win if you don't pick up penalties, but picking up penalties around here is so easy to do in multiple locations, even though the amount of runoff area that is available on a lot of this track is enormous. There is still the likelihood in a few places of safety cars being deployed, because the likelihood in a certain few places where you don't have quite so much runoff, that's where you're most likely to be seeing those tonight. But I believe we have about 29 laps ahead of us here tonight after this short qualifying format here for tonight, as we're on board with Linguini, who is the first car on a lap here around this very twisty circuit. Only the one real straight where you'll see the DRS deployment, I believe, through the start-finish straight is the only DRS. It's a interesting one in terms of F1 tracks because it's actually one of the few places you don't see an actual more than one, only the singular DRS zone. The only other place you really see that is somewhere like Monaco, which only has the one DRS zone as well, but obviously for very different reasons. This is very much a high-speed circuit in comparison to the likes of Monaco. But it would be interesting as Linguini goes and sets the first time on the board. It's going to be a Racing Bulls behind, I believe, of the Wilkin, who is going to be next across the line, although he is invalidated, so unfortunate for him. He will not be getting this lap time board and will have to go again. It's going to be one of the Mercedes cars behind. That's Ghost, who's just starting the lap, so it will be the other one. It will be WR Santi 11, who is next across the line. He does a 22.5, so he's about half a second off the pace of Linguini in the Alpine. He goes to second for the time being, and I believe we have the next car coming to the line is going to be, I believe, one of the Alpines. Yes, it is Manny K, but unfortunately Manny K is invalidated, so she will have to go again, unfortunately. And well, that's another thing you're going to see a lot of, is how easy it is to actually invalidate on your laps, as we found someone, I believe another car, on an invalid lap, that being J Pinto. He's currently just heading round to the final car in the final straight now, and he goes into third place for the Williams driver. And then it's going to be the two McLarens. It's going to be Luke Bailey, who's gone across line, his teammate just in front, Marky 24, 22.0. Just goes marginally quicker than Linguini for the time being. And Luke Bailey, who we're on board with, goes into fourth. So good drive there, good lap there from himself. The only Red Bull, I believe, on a lap, that's Ryan Barthas. He has just started on his lap, so he'll be coming around to finish. So we're going to go on board with Ghost. Not unfortunately, I think he was unavailable last week. I believe or a few weeks ago, I believe he had some computer issues. He's, I believe, now back though, back with a bang. 21.9 from Ghost. And a very nice lap there from him, and I believe that car was a car just on a starter of a lap. Vulcan has just indeed gone for a second push lap around. I believe he may well invalidate again, so I'm not sure if he has enough time to go round again, so you're going to have to perhaps go into the pits and maybe get a brand new set of tyres on that car. See if anyone else is currently also. Manny K is coming around to complete the second lap, this time a valid effort from the Alpine, and we'll see how she compares up against the field so far that have set times and has actually gone into the pits. Nice to see the change in the pit lane actually as well. It's not the same one we used to be seeing. It's not the one at the final corner anymore. It is actually been moved. I believe on one of the patches that was where that actually was the case, that indeed did happen. So I'm going to go on board with Ryan, who does a 22-1, pops himself into 4th, just behind Linguini. So the only Red Bull driver popping himself into the top 4 for the time being, and I believe the Will can, if he's able to do a lap, which he has not, he has invalidated on his lap, and unfortunately he will be unable to get a lap time on the board, and it's probably going to be coming to the pits if he doesn't have enough fuel. Yes, he does. Well, no, he does not, rather. Fortunate for him. Ghost will be coming in, I believe, again soon, so we're going to go stay on board with Linguini just now, as I get a few details up for myself on this particular track, as I say, because just trying to sort everything out beforehand, sort of thing. I realised I didn't actually give myself an actual track map to sort of refer back to. So the Qatar Grand Prix, we will take you through a lap on board actually this time round. So I'm just going to quickly load this up here, make sure everything is working as intended on the actual stream. But it's an interesting one, this one, because it's a nice flowing track. You just have to really get it right, because if you don't get the track right, then this track tends to punish you quite heavily for if you do in any way get it wrong, because if you're out of flow for one corner, it will put you out of flow for the rest, or at least the next 2 or 3 corners, which will probably screw your lap up as a result. Logged in, that's fun. Why is it on that one? Oh, cool, we're just going to have to do that. I'm just going to quickly go into Twitch app, which, side note, is that I'm not 100% sure what they did, but I'm not entirely 100% comfortable with what they did with the new changes as such. Those 2 viewers, as I say, hopefully you're doing well. But yeah, the Qatar Grand Prix as an actual track itself, it's I believe in real life was the first time it was raced in 2021 during, I believe, the second part of the COVID affected Grand Prix in 2021. So full race around here would be 57 laps. But it is only 29, as it is only half the distance. Circuit length of about 5.419 kilometers, and the fastest lap was set by Max Verstappen in 2023, and that was a 124.3 in the actual. There's a lap record in that. The track itself, it is a. I can't even read that map, unfortunately. So I'm just going back and find the Lusail International Circuit here. That's what I'm looking for. So it is a 16 corner circuit, and I believe, as I say, looking at it, there's actually a few alternate layouts which are used, as I say, because outside of F1, this normal mainstay in terms of the track is normally a track used for MotoGP, and that is, as I say, because normally I would say that's something well known for 2 wheels rather than 4 wheels, being in the Middle East for here. As I say, a lot of tracks now in the Middle East actually in terms of this, because you've got Qatar here, then you've got Qatar here and Lusail, and then you've got Lusail, Lusail, yes, of course, I'm doing Lusail International Circuit here. But then you've got the Bahrain International Circuit, and then you've also got usually the finale track, which is the Yas Marina Circuit in Abu Dhabi. As I say, the Middle East has got more and more of a presence on the F1 calendar now than what it used to do, and it's interesting to see how, because each one of them has each of their different qualities, and how they've been changed over the years. Is well, I've just been sort of talking away. We've got Manny Kay coming towards the final corner, and what is she going to do? As she comes across the start finish line, it is going to be a 22.7, so the 7th place at the moment for the Alpine driver, Brantastic 99. Is going to be the next car to probably come across the line. That is well, he's on a lap at the moment, just in the first sector split. It's Linguini who went to the top. He did a 21.8 with Ghost still in second. It's about 7 minutes, just over 7 minutes left in this qualifying session here as both I believe one of the McLarens is actually coming to the line. I think that's going to be Markey who's coming to the line. Yes, it is Markey. So let's see how the McLaren driver on his second run does. He does a 21.4. There is the next benchmark put down. Obviously, the shorter layout of the track means you can get multiple runs in the session. You probably get about 3 or 4 runs. In the actual session itself, Ghost, I believe that's not Ghost, that's the other Mercedes, that is Santi's gone into the box. So no, will not be him on a lap. So I believe we've got, I think it's Bran who's coming to the line next. So you got to be careful with the curbs around here, because even the curbs are probably in some places can be a bit unforgiving, and you've also got to make sure you don't run too far over the lines, because the weird thing with the inconsistencies of the track limits of a track like this is you find that sometimes the track will be forgiving, and then at other points it will be completely the opposite. It's not forgiving at all as such. That's he's in the middle sector at the moment. That's Luke Bailey, I think, about to cross the line. He's up 4/10 on his lap. He does a 22.2 for Luke Bailey. He goes into 7th, improves himself by a place. Date, I believe, just pops ahead. Ryan in P2 in the Red Bull. So nice lap time there from the Red Bull driver, who has just indeed finished on screen now. I believe just 2 cars left to set lap time. So we got the Wilkin, and I believe the other car who's now to set a lap time, that being Fulawi. I think that's correct, the correct way of saying it. If he's in the stream, he can tell me if I am indeed saying that as the wrong name. But the final car to cross line is going to be the Racing Bulls V car, and he goes into 11th place at 22.6 for him at the moment. So your current quickest time, with just over well over half the session in this qualifying gone, it is the McLaren of Markey, who's currently on the top at the moment and provisional pole position. He's being followed at the moment by Ryan, who's about 4/10, but I think that gap is going to get smaller, and Ryan is marginally quicker than Flawi, who I think is about 3 thousandths between those two, and that is to say that's very close between 2nd, 3rd and 4th at the moment, and even 5th for that matter. A little bit distance further back, is I believe everyone will now be coming in for their final runs. I believe the first time I've actually seen this driver as well, Flawi, I believe, unless he was a reservist in Tier 1, unfortunately. There are certain things I can see, and certain things I cannot, unfortunately, because I'm not normally the mainstays actual commentator for Tier 1. I normally do the other half of Tier 2, but unfortunately, to say, there have been a few weeks missed on that, but I will be live on the other channel, PGS, the Tier 2 channel, I believe, is it's an interesting line into the pit lane. That's a new one for me, seeing that actual pit lane entry, because that's definitely not a track, so a pit lane entry that I have seen before. As a Ghost is going to be the first one to be coming out on a lap. So this time round, I think we will actually go around a lap of this circuit. Obviously, no actual track corner names on this. It's just referring purely to track track corner numbers. So we will go on board with Ghost and see what he does. He's currently just in the middle sector at the moment, so what he can do with the helmet sign, which I do quite like as well. It's a set helmet sign. I've got very similar colours for myself, as he's currently just coming through into the middle sector, into the 2nd sector split, and coming into sector 3, coming in towards, I believe he's coming through the 12 and 13 complex and into 14, and coming to finish the lap in turn 15, and then coming into turn 16 as he gets a little bit of tire temp coming through this corner. So lap on board the Losail International Circuit is he's backed off. So he's decided he doesn't want to go at the moment, so that was a bit anticlimactic. We will follow someone round though. At some point I was hoping he was going to be there, so do that. He's going to be quite close on time being able to get himself in. This is one thing I've said about the F1 games that I wish you could actually do, and that was if you wanted to, you could literally come into the pits, change your tyres, and then just immediately go back out again if you wanted to do like a quick go in and then go back out again sort of thing. As I believe that's a McLaren firstly coming out. Is that Marky coming out? It is Marky coming out first. So he is going to take us through a final lap in anger of this circuit. So we'll see how the McLaren driver does do. I mean, McLaren, a very strong pairing in this Tier 1 and PGS, Marky and Luke Bailey. Two very sort of quick drivers in their own rights. Sometimes have suffered a little bit from lack of luck here and there, and being involved in sometimes instances that are entirely through the fault of their own sort of thing. As I say, it's going to get very busy on the track now, as people are going to start coming out. We've got about 2 minutes left in the session. Because of the length of the track, it's an incredibly short sort of track length as such, because it's only about a 1 minute 20, 1 minute 21 to 1 minute 22 lap time around here in qualifying. So if it's anything like the race, if the race is anything like before with the previous, where we had the high tyre wear, it could be an interesting one to see how the actual strategy gets handled by the drivers, because the drivers may well struggle to maybe perhaps do the normal ones that you can do, because that's something I did find even doing it just doing it once up around Bahrain was a little bit of a struggle for everything. In terms of when I was doing it, I'm not sure if it's got the same sort of characteristics as this, because I believe that mine has the two. Anyway, so a lap around this Losail International Circuit for real this time. So out of turn 16 and in towards turn number 1, using a little bit of the battery as you head down. Got to be careful you don't run out of deployment when you come to the end of this lap. But heading in towards turn number 1, the long right-hander. You've got to be careful not to invalidate at any point in this lap. There are several places you can indeed invalidate. In towards the complex of turns 2 and 3. So the long flowing left-hander, and then the kink, the slight left-hand kink of turn 3, and into towards turn at number 4 and 5. They both follow very quickly. You've got to be careful you get that right. As you say there, it's very difficult, and as you see, you can prove exactly why it's difficult for it to do that. Carrying on the lap is a marginal improvement on this as he heads through in towards, I believe, through the kink of 6 and in towards turn 7 and turn 8, which follow very closely, and then turn 9. All very close together and all very important to get, and in towards turn at number 10, the left-hander, and then in towards turn 11 and turns 12. It's very important to get those right, and in towards turns 13 and 14, which all follow very closely together. You don't really get much of a break around here, and it's a place where you can make a move if you can bring someone out of line and out of position. And now to heading towards turn at number 15 and turn number 16. There's not going to be no improvement for Marky here, but this is indeed a lap of the Losail International Circuit here in Qatar. And he's probably going to come into the pits, I would think. Yes, he is, but yes, we'll not have a chance to see, unfortunately, what his time would be. But the next car around to finish lap is going to be in the Aston Martin. Using his batteries, he comes towards the line. What is it going to be? 21.6. Fastest final sector for him. What can his teammate do? Luke Bailey next across the line in the second of the McLarens, through almost 4 tenths of improvement. He goes up into P5. Then I believe following that is going to be Jay Pinto, who's coming to the line next, coming up about 3.5 tenths. He's about 3.3, just under 3.5 tenths improvement. 121.8 for him. I believe that's a car that's boxed. The Wilkin, I believe, is going to be next one to cross line in the Only Racing Bulls. He improves by around about 4 tenths of a second. He moves up to P10. Then I believe next one to cross line is going to be Ryan. He stays P3. There was improvements for him, but there was not enough to improve, as Bran pops himself into that's Linguini. Board with his Brian goes across the line, does 21.8, so improvements there for him, and I believe we have everything done and dusted as Linguini's into the pits, and that is it. That's your run here in qualifying, here in Tier 1, round number 6, here in PGS, and we will see what the action has to say when we get going. Fair enough. I'm guessing that's Ghost. Wrong tyres. Fair enough. I was going to do a lap on board with you, actually, until I actually realised to say. Mark, even though was unable to get a lap on the board, validating on his second run, his third run. Maybe not his second, but his final run in the session. So he's still on pole position. He will share the front row with the Portuguese SGZ Verdade and the Aston Martin. Ryan, Varthas and Falawi will be on row 2, 3rd and 4th. Luke Bailey in the second of the two McLarens, and then it is Linguini in 6th. Brantastic and J Pinto 7th and 8th. Ghost 9th with Wilkin in 10th, and then WR Santi 11 in 11th, and Manny K is in 12th at the back of the grid. It's only 1.1 seconds that covers the entire grid. That is, I think that's fairly close in terms of the actual whole grid format. As I see, it's amazing, as I say, when you get a grid that's about the 1 second mark in terms of from all the way from the top to the bottom. It's an amazing thing, as I say. we look forward to 29 laps of racing ahead. It'll be interesting to see the strategies the drivers do indeed prompt themselves to actually go with. And yeah, you'll have to see, as I say. It will be a very short turnaround here, Val, because I believe there's not much actual time between the actual drivers going from where we are. And the main interesting, just a little bit of a interesting tidbit I just had a look at when I was looking at this. So main straight around here is it's just over 1 kilometer long, so about 0.66 miles. Interesting to note as well, obviously, because it's being in the desert. It's an interesting thing to see that they have artificial grass to stop the actual sand encroaching onto the track. I mean, sand not exactly the most conducive for grip coming the end of the edges of the circuit as such. That's just an interesting thing for me actually note, as I say, because obviously it's interesting to note this track has actually been around for a very long time as such, as I say, obviously being an FIA graded grade 1 circuit. That's why it can actually be used for racing in real life. And that's, I believe, because of I'm not sure if MotoGP which also races on this circuit from time to time. I don't know if it's done so for every year for the last few years. But the actual, I believe that's also grade 1 format as well. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. So yeah, 2004. When was the opening day of this track? So it's a construction cost of about 58 million US dollars. That seems sort of small, I'd say, in comparison to certain things, and I believe that's kind of probably pocket change for certain people in the Middle East, because let's just say there is a lot of money that flows through the Middle East because of the uses of oil, etc., etc. I know it's going to seem like a little bit of rambling, but yeah. So let's see, a lot of what does it say? 16 kilometers. Yeah. Let's have a quick old look at the strategies people might well be starting on. As I say, interesting to note on the screen just now is top 3 opting for the mediums, as we're about to go into the action actually. So let me get back at that menu. We're actually on no formation lap on this one, so we're straight into the racing action. 29 laps of racing to go here. Looks like it's not the best of starts from Marky here, but he does indeed hold on to position from the Aston Martin behind, and it still remains the same behind, but Ryan and Falawi Luke Bailey and Falawi going side by side behind. This is the thing with the track, is the track does tend to give a lot of good racing, as Luke Bailey now dropping down 2 positions, and he's being swamped a little bit. That's the thing you get if you're out of position even slightly. You can be put out of position, as Linguini now goes side by side with the McLaren driver for P6, and the Alpines, the first of the Alpines gets through, and Manny Kay, I believe, has had an issue. You can see that's Manny Kay off the road there, just at the side there, as we got a swap for positions there, just a little bit ahead, as that's Marky's being dropped behind the behind Verdade at the moment. You may notice that one of the Juggernauts or Championship leader, the Fizz, is not available. Is not here tonight. So it gives a chance for someone to perhaps ingrain their name into the race winners podium, the race winners circle this season in Tier 1, because we've seen how dominant the Aston Martin driver has actually been. So it's a little bit of a change here tonight, and it's going to be interesting to see how the drivers approach the ERS usage, because the ERS usage around here in last year's game, if you used it and it wouldn't really come back as quickly as you'd like. So you do need to make sure you're careful of watching that, as that's Santi dropping down. I think that's the Wilkin into the pits. Must have had some damage on that car. So there's side by side action just behind. That's the Williams of J Pinto making a move in Falawi in towards turn number 1. Falawi on the hard tyres, still wanting to get those tyres up to temperature. And J Pinto is just up position, up to 4th on the medium compound tyres, but the top 3 do have a little bit of a gap on the cars ahead, and Linguini has managed to still keep ahead on that car there, as Ghost and Bran are going side by side through the middle sector, and we've got the other Mercedes of Santi as well, who's trying to make a move down the inside, and that's a very opportunistic move there from the Mercedes there, unfortunately, as there's Ghost, who is indeed on the soft compound tyres. Oh, this is awkward. Sorry about that, I'm doing comms at the moment. That should remind me, actually, I should put this part in invite only. I'll just do that now. Sorry about that. I do apologise for that. Ghost is currently up the 1 position. Sorry about that small interlude at the moment. We'll put the tyres back on the screen. Ghost currently trying to make his way through, and the top 3 still remaining close at the moment. And as going back on board with the top 3 is pretty still under pressure from the 2 cars behind as the McLaren is going to go down the inside, making use of the DRS and slipstream as they head in towards turn number 1. With everything that's going on there, and now it's still almost side by side. The Aston Martin driver not fully ready to give up yet on that position, so even though the main Aston Martin driver is here tonight, it's not. There's still an Aston Martin vying for the lead of the Grand Prix, even if it's not the usual McLaren, the usual Aston Martin driver that we are used to seeing. I don't know how I ended up saying McLaren there, but yeah, it still remains very close between all these top 3 in terms of how it looks. And there's the welcome of the 10-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. That's real unfortunate for him, and he has indeed retired from the session. So unfortunately, that's all we're going to see from him. So an unfortunate time from what I've seen of him in his debut here. So very hard to get a safety car in a lot of places around here because of that particular nature. But Ryan, as I say, is currently looking, still trying to make a move as the Aston Martin driver has filled back just a little bit from the back of the McLaren, and the McLaren driver looking to try and break away and maybe use some of his ERS deployment to get himself away and away and create a gap, but he's not managed to do that. And if you run within like half a second or less, I think you can make a move down this 1 kilometre main straight, which marks start and finish of the straight, as the McLaren driver marks a 6th fast lap of the Grand Prix at 25.2 in these early stages of the Grand Prix. As we got, as I say, this is our action here is back down the inside goes the McLaren driver as he's on the inside, but that's going to be outside for this next corner. The Aston Martin still ahead for the moment, and I think that's still side by side, and I think may have been a brief bit of ghosting there from the Aston Martin, from the McLaren driver, and now Jay Pinto's now put himself in this fight as well, and Flowey not too far behind either, so the Haas and the Williams are joining the party. To say, and it's all going to get very close and all very bunched together, so we could have a massive fight here as Santi in the background has managed to get past his teammate. Santi picks up a time penalty as Ghost and his teammate go side by side, and Ghost gets back through, but I believe Ghost carrying a wing damage from an incident which unfortunately I believe has happened off screen, so unfortunately I haven't been able to see exactly what happened to the Mercedes driver, unfortunately, so unfortunate for Ghost. And all of that, as Manny Kay still trying to make her way back into this group, having been in the pits and put on the hard compound tyres, I believe. So let me have a quick check. I think did she start on those tyres? No, she's on those. That was starting tyres actually, so just after the moment that she had earlier on the race, as we're going to have a 3-way battle once again for the lead of the Grand Prix, and we're going to see a swap positions as the letterbox on the McLaren and the Aston Martin will open once again, and down the inside goes the McLaren. Is the Aston Martin going to have a go as well down the inside? I'm not sure if he is. No, he's not. We're going to go back to Ryan, who's side by side as now the Aston Martin driver has dropped down to P3. Maybe wanting to save a little bit of battery deployment, which if I have a quick look at the battery deployment at the moment, still looks good for Ryan, who we're currently on board with, and Ryan is tucked up right behind the back of the McLaren. You're going to see a lot of saving in that middle sector split as when he picks up time penalty in the rear. That's the thing you're going to see a lot in this Grand Prix is with the heavy sort of battling you do in certain places, you may well not notice you've crossed across the line. The white line is just a bit too much, and it can be very difficult to sometimes know when those limits are. And Ryan is still, as I say, being put pressure on the lead McLaren driver with the Aston Martin just behind. Jay Pinto now looking at the group as well as Flowey's got his own pressure behind from Luke Bailey. And Linguini now, as Linguini has dropped back behind Luke Bailey once again, having got the move done on the second McLaren earlier on in this race. Linguini on the hards versus Luke Bailey, who's on the mediums just ahead. So medium hard strat probably for a lot of these drivers, or hard medium, I would think, because I don't think we're likely to see that many chances of actual safety cars around here. So we're going to once again have the action down the straight. Ryan a little bit further back than he really should be if he wants to make a move in towards turn number 1, but Ryan's going to try and go round the outside A nice sweeping move there, and I think, is it going to be 2 positions lost for the McLaren driver of Markey? Yes, it is. As Verdade finishes off the move in towards turn this into that corner there. Looking at it as I say, so looking through as they still head through as Ghost is into the pits for the hard compound tyres, probably going to the end on that strategy and looking to see what he can do. As I say, it's going to be interesting when those tyres come the end of the Grand Prix, as Verdade now being chased, and now Markey now under pressure from J Pinto. Maybe those tyres, or maybe carrying a little bit too much downforce, or maybe not enough downforce, because this track is a track you do need to be careful of your downforce levels. You want to have enough downforce levels where you can be comfortable through the corners, yet you don't want to carry too much that you're not quick enough through the straights. The one main straight, which is the start-finish straight down there, as they come through second sector split again on lap number 6, as Verdade still looking close, and J Pinto pretty much right up the rear diffuser, looking and seeing if he can try and force the McLaren in front of him to make a mistake, as it's still all very close, still all within DRS. Ryan's going to have to look over his shoulder once again to see that Aston Martin this time that is going to be very close to making a move, is probably using a little bit of the battery deployment themselves, trying to make a move into towards this turn at number 1, as Markey's going to try and go side by side with the Aston Martin driver of Verdade in towards the first corner. They're going to go side by side. The Aston Martin driver is going to have the inside line for the next corner. However, they are going to go side by side. The great thing with this track is it does allow that to be able to happen, and once again someone has been caught out wide. That once again is going to be the Aston Martin driver, who falls down to 4th, and J Pinto has moved himself up into P3 in the Williams. So good move made there, making use of the mistake, I believe, trying to go around the outside. As I say, maybe not fully enough space, perhaps the reason why that is the case, as Luke Bailey and Linguini also battling behind for P5 at the moment. So these the drivers behind maybe losing a little bit of time and all of that, but it's about 2.4 seconds gap between Luke Bailey and 5th and the top 4 ahead of battling for supremacy of the race lead in this Grand Prix. 7 laps into this race already. You're seeing how quickly the time does actually fly in terms of the Grand Prix itself. And Flowey also very close in the background as well, the Haas, who has not got a penalty, but Linguini, who is in the middle of this train, is indeed carrying a penalty himself, as we're going to go back to the lead of the Grand Prix, as Markey once again is going to maybe have a go and have a look here. You're going to see this lead change hands multiple times here, as the McLaren is going to get very close and probably make a move in towards turn number 1. The outside line, as I say, it's going to be 2 by 2 in towards turn number 1. Ryan going side by side. You're also going to see the Aston Martin and the Williams going side by side as well. Not full, the Williams driver wasn't fully done in the background there, but wasn't quite fully able to make the move, and once again the McLaren is into the lead of the Grand Prix. And now this is where you're going to see the drivers once again who are behind, saving the battery and using it on the main straight itself, as Ryan tucked up directly behind. You can pretty much put touch paper all over all 4 of these drivers with how close they actually all are together. It's a great little scrap going on here, as well as the fact there's a great little scrap going on for the battle for P5 onwards down to P7 at the moment. And you've also got Brandon Santi, who are looking at P8 and P9. Don't know, as I say, whether this is even the best place to look at the moment, as Flowey's still also very close to the back of Luke Bailey, who's fell back a little bit from the back of Linguini, but Linguini having made the move down that straight, I would think. J Pinto's also going to now have a go once again. He was looking very close there and trying to think of it making a move, but all you do is break up the DRS train if you're not careful. I mean, that's something you will see a lot in this game, is just DRS trains, just to make sure you don't lose track, because heavy battling, which you probably will see later on in the Grand Prix when it really does come to it, there's no point to breaking up the DRS train at the moment. So at this point you may as well just carrying on, just using the DRS, swapping, and then making the moves once again, as Ryan's going to go round the outside. Lead changes hands once again, and the Aston Martin driver stays ahead. That's then Linguini and Luke Bailey going side by side. Santi and then Santi and Bran going side by side as well. Santi getting the better of it in towards turn number 1 there in the first all the 2 Mercedes there, with Ghost obviously having pitted a little bit further back at the moment. He's going to have to make his way through on that one, obviously having started in the soft compound tyres, those not lasting all that long, especially on like a 50% race distances. You will notice how the tyres, having scaled down, they do not last nearly as long as Bran. Give these guys a little bit of the time on air. Bran's still all over the back of the Mercedes for what this is P8, and amazing when you can see like you bounce all the way down the field, all the way down to like P8 at the moment as he's trying to make a move down the inside, thinking about it into this sequence of corners, but he's not able to make a move into these corners here. And Bran, as I say, he's still close, but now we're going to go back to the we're going to go back a little bit further up, see if anything's going on just a little bit further up as we're about to come to the end of the third sector, coming up towards turn number 16. And down the 1 kilometre long back straight in towards turn number 1. Not the longest straight in front of the one. I believe that honour goes to, I believe, the Las Vegas. The Las Vegas, I believe, has the longest run in towards turn the longest straight. Not the main straight, but the one of the few of the DRS zones there on that track. Ryan and Mark go side by side as Bran, and Santi goes side by side as well for a position as Santi drops down a position once again, and the Flowey now making a move as well. I think there's been a mistake from Linguini, and that has meant that the I think made the mistake or DRS assisted pass in towards turn number 1, and the Haas is now up a position, and it looks like Linguini is falling back just a little bit, even though he's on the same old lap of age of tyres. So I think Linguini could be in a little bit of trouble here. He could perhaps have some damage on that car. If we have to have a quick old look at that car. Just seems to be struggling just a little bit, and no, he seems to have everything attached. Just seems to be had a little bit of an issue there on that car. So you'll probably appear into that battle probably again soon. Just maybe had a bit of a scruffy moment somewhere along the lap for the first of the 2 Alpines. I said Ryan and this lead train still remain all very close together, up down to P4. It's all very close. And it's amazing to actually see we got a yellow flag. That's Linguini, who's out of the Grand Prix, and safety car has been deployed. That's the thing you will see, is a safety car can be deployed if you get one in a certain place. So this will be a great time for the medium runners, who will now come into the pits for a brand new set of the hard compound tyres, and you're going to most likely see that the ones who are on the hards are most likely going to have to box for the mediums, perhaps. As I say, that kind of screws up the strategy of certain people. And however, it does bring Ghost back into the fight, into the fray as well, as he was quite a ways down. But we will be finishing with 10 drivers here, a couple of retirements obviously. Only 2 retirements at the moment is the Wilkin in the Racing Bulls V car, and Linguini, who we've just seen retire and caused this safety car to be deployed. And Manny K is into the pits on 9 lap old hards, or 10 lap old hards, probably to go onto the mediums and see if she can take those tyres to the end on that Alpine, I would think, as per thought. So I'd be surprised we're going to see a flurry of pit stops here, as we're now heading through this section of corners. You can see the safety car is waiting to pick up the leaders, and now we're just going to see the field has indeed been equalised. Everyone will now save up their batteries once again and get ready for the restart. So Bran has picked up a drive-through, so that's unfortunate for the Haas driver. I think that might be his race perhaps done, because I don't know if there is going to be another safety car deployed in this race. As into the pits everyone comes, you're going to see everyone rolling into the pits now. Nice sort of wide pit entry, everyone in now. Into the pits comes the McLaren driver, the Red Bull driver, the Aston Martin driver, the Williams driver, the second of the 2 McLarens, so there's going to be a double stack there. Into the pits, onto that, he goes onto the hards, having to wait a little bit as he goes. He's indeed still going to be leading from this rate in there, as the Williams driver is a little bit further down pit lane. It's going to be exactly the same as they went into the pits. It's still in the same order, and into the pits comes Luke Bailey, who goes onto the hards as well. A little bit of delay for him obviously with the double stack. Into the pits comes the Haas of Flowey, medium tyres for himself. So no, Bran is going to be serving that penalty at the end of green flag running, unfortunately for him, so he will not be able to unfortunately take advantage of the safety car. And yeah, so it does get slowed down a little bit, but some great racing we've seen so far in this Grand Prix, because the racing action has really seen exactly what can be done when you're able to go side by side and be comfortable knowing that the car you're going side by side is going to be able to leave you the relative amount of space that you know is a safe amount to actually leave as such. everyone almost caught to the queue. We're just waiting for, I believe, Ghost and Manny K to catch up to the back of the queue themselves. The Mercedes and the second Mercedes and the second Alpine. The only Alpine left in this Grand Prix now, unfortunately. Manny K carrying the Alpine hopes for this race and carrying those her shoulders. So it'll be interesting to see how that, of course, does actually play out. But everyone now is indeed going to be in the queue, and it's going to be interesting to see how this affects the mindset of all the drivers and how we actually go about everything. That came out, as I say, perfectly for the medium runners, because they were probably going to be pitting sometime soon anyway. I would have thought probably about 12, 13. I think I would have been suspecting when we're going to like racing the actual medium runners would have been coming into the pits here at Qatar. But it's going to be interesting to see how everyone now shapes up when they come back in, and seeing how so yeah. That's good. Sounding like I'm repeating myself, but yeah, you know what I mean. I tend to do that a lot when I do commentary, especially sort of solo commentaries. It's a thing that is well enjoyed. As I say, but it was an interesting thing though about commentaries. Doing something yourself is all about just carrying on and having something to talk about. Not having long silences, which sometimes does happen, but it's all just about making sure that you're keeping people entertained as such. So hopefully everyone, the 3 people who are watching, maybe will be some of the drivers who have this on in the background are enjoying the dulcet tones. And I believe we will be underway racing at the end of this lap, because everyone is now indeed in the queue. So a chance for the likes of Manny K and Ghost to have a little bit of rescue for the races. I mean, Ghost pitting early off the soft compound tyres, going into the hards, and obviously Manny K we saw running wide into that runoff area there. I mean, Ghost is picked with 10 seconds for a collision with his teammate, so I'm not sure entirely sure what's happened there. We're going to have a quick gander down and see what indeed has happened. Does he have damage on that car? No, he doesn't, so that's very strange why he's picked up a 10 second for what may well have been not a lot of contact. Oh, what's going on here? Why are we having a slowdown here? I'm not entirely sure why that was incredibly slow. It almost went to the back of his teammate once again. As I say, 10 seconds. If it was anything like that, then I feel like that was a little bit undeserved, really, for the second of the 2 Mercedes drivers. As we're now going to be underway racing this lap around. Safety car is indeed in this lap. DRS will be enabled the next time around they go round, so 15 of 29. So we are going to be, I think we've crossed the half distance line now in terms of this. So let's see how Marky decides to approach this restart. He dictates the pace of the restart, making sure he has as much tire temperature as per possible in his tires before he gets going, and not a lot of weaving going on behind from Ryan, who's on exactly the same one. Is he going early? He's not gone yet, and we are underway once again. He has indeed gone a little bit early. Luke's been caught out a little bit in the sort of for the P5 position. As here we go into turn 1. Got to wait until you get past the line to be able to overtake. And Ryan is up the inside into turn 1, wasting absolutely no time at all, getting back into the lead of the Grand Prix. And just to say, ignore that safety car graphic there. That will just remain there probably for the rest of this race, even though the safety car is not deployed. It still will just remain there anyway. One of those little foibles, really, of a Codemasters game, because this does that anyways. We've got side-by-side action in there, I think, almost between Flowey and Luke Bailey. Flowey still behind it for the time being. And important for Luke Bailey to remain in the queue, but there is a mistake from the second of the 2 McLarens. A little bit of wheel-to-wheel contact between the 2 of them, and the Haas driver does get through. Luke Bailey realising, and once again a little bit of contact with the front wing there, and it looks like Bran has managed to get past as well, but he will have to go in box for to serve that drive-through. And so down the inside is Manny K. So great little move from Manny K. It looks like we've got Jay Pinto's moved down a few positions as well. We've had a moment there as Manny K is side by side, and it looks like we've got Ghost going side by side as well, as Luke Bailey, I believe, has had a spin or had a very near moment as Jay Pinto has dropped back behind as well, as Ghost up to P5. So great little move there from Ghost to get himself And a little bit of clear air as Manny K picks up a 10-second penalty for ignoring yellow flags. So it's unfortunate there for the Alpine drivers. We got a side-by-side between the two drivers there as Brian goes into the pits. We got a 3 wide in towards turn number 1. Someone is going to have to yield here. 2 people are going to have to yield here as Renee decides to pop back into line. And Markey still leads this Grand Prix, having retaken the lead from Ryan. DRS is indeed enabled once again. Got a little bit of a gap there, has the McLaren, but that gap probably won't last for long come the next DRS zone. Probably immediately going to get back past Falawi now into P4. So great little moment there for the Haas driver, and into P4 for themselves in the Haas there. A little bit further back, we've got Santi Santi versus Manning K for P6, and Manning K looks like she's pulling away just a little bit from the back of pulling away from Santi at the moment. Maybe there'll be a little bit of rear damage potentially in the contact with Ghost and all of that. So we'll have to see if that was indeed the case. As we got the Wheelbailer trying to make his way through just a little bit further back. So Flyway is looking to make a move on those medium compound tyres. Got to be careful with those mediums, though. Those mediums have to go quite a long way in this Grand Prix, and got to be careful that they don't burn out those tyres far too early, because those tyres do need to go, as I say, a long distance. Ryan's in a little bit of trouble actually. He was about to drop out of DRS there. As we've got Flowey making a move potentially towards turn number 1. He's making a move into turn number 1 anyway on Ryan. Is Ryan going to be out of position and potentially lose 2 places here? Yes, he is. He is going to potentially lose position as the Haas is round to the outside, and a great move round the outside as such from the Haas. Nice sweeping outside move as the Haas looking to try and get through on those medium compound tyres, and the Aston Martin driver is going to be under pressure here and has dropped out that 1 second. This is exactly what Markey needs to pull away for the fastest sector 1 split. Obviously DRS potentially assisted in all of that. That's probably the reasons for that particular moment as such. And Verdade trying to hold off positions, and now he's in trouble with no DRS, having been in that DRS for the first part of the actual first part of the race up to that safety car. Is now looking like he could potentially lose 2 positions here on that next straight, because both cars behind him will have the DRS, and an extra, I believe it's about an extra 20 or 30 miles an hour you get on the straights with those ones with the DRS open to the car in front of you that does not have it. I could be wrong in that one though. Someone could correct me if I'm wrong in that particular matter. Verdade looking to hold off his position, but I believe it could be a little bit of a foregone conclusion really, as the Haas is into P2 and it is just conceding position for the Aston Martin, and now the Aston Martin driver can now refocus and try and get the position back once again, as Santi is into the pits from P9. The second of the 2 Mercedes drivers, unfortunate there, onto the medium compound tyres. Must have got some damage on that restart. Ryan picks up a penalty himself. Running just a tiny bit too wide there was the Red Bull driver. Now Flower looking at the back of Marquez. That gap has dropped down massively. We'll have a quick look at his DRS deployment. It's got 60%, so as Marquez picks up a penalty, that could be a very crucial reminder as well. Both of them on a fairly decent amount of ERS, I have to say. The Haas still remaining very, very close to the rear of the McLaren as they head in towards the end of the Sector 2 split. And the Haas driver looking very racy and wanting to get the position here. As I say, the medium compound tyres will be the better tyres at the moment, but as we get later on into the stint, after the safety car restart, we're going to see is there's a massive moment there from Ryan, who drops out of 1 second himself, so now Verdade doesn't have that pressure behind. He's now in P3. Markey, though, that's penalty, if he's not careful, could cost him massively if not careful as far. 124.2 is the best lap of the Grand Prix for the Haas driver on the medium compound tyres, and into the lead goes the Haas driver. So great move in towards turn number 1 with the DRS assisted in that manoeuvre, getting through into the lead of the Grand Prix, and we'll see if he can hold on to that once the tyres do start to fade, because now he's in the lead of the Grand Prix. Markey may well choose to just sit in the wheel tracks just behind and make the most of saving his tyres for the time being. not sitting too close, of course, you get the dirty air effect, but the making sure he's sitting in a certain position where he's in, again, in a good position at least, to perhaps keep hold of that P2 at least on track. With Verdade not too far behind either, and now Ryan under pressure from Ghost. Obviously, we could know Ghost having pitted, I believe he put on an R on 6 lap old hard, so he's put on an R set of hard compound tyres. Ghost trying to get past Ryan, who seems to have had an issue himself, and I wonder if he's picked up some potential some damage, or he's been a little bit out of sync, because when you have a good rhythm and flow around here, as Flowy picking up a penalty themselves now, so that's equalised that out, and now Verdade has a chance if he doesn't pick up a penalty himself. So we're coming up on 10 11 laps left to go here in this Grand Prix. Marky though is going to be coming back and seeing going side by side. They're both with penalties, so now it does not matter. As I say, one will finish front the other with the penalties being applied at the end of this race, and Ghost himself is also into P4, but Ryan coming back round the outside of the McLaren, the Red Bull driver, is making a move around the outside, still has a good line heading through, they're still going side by side, great respect between these two, and the Red Bull driver indeed does have to yield the position, and Ghost is into P4. Obviously seen the pace of Ghost is from the past, he's a great driver in terms of himself there. As Luke picks up a penalty now as well. Penalty situation as such is about, well, Ghost has that 13 seconds to his name, unfortunately. Ryan with only 3, and then Manny K has 13 as well. I'm not sure why this is saying Manny did not have that 10-second penalty actually served. I believe that may have well been after the safety car restart that actually happened. That's potentially why she was not able to serve that in the pit lane. But he's still keeping himself in touch though, just doing what he has to do now, is the Aston Martin driver, because now he's in a really good position having not got a penalty, unlike the 2 cars in front of him. And now we go once again down the straight for the 19th or 20th time in this Grand Prix with 9 to go. 9 or 10 to go, I think, if you include the formation lap, but if you don't, then it's just 9 laps, whichever way you decide to put it. As Ryan and Ghost go side by side, Ghost getting past cleanly in towards turn number 1, Ryan getting the move done in that corner there, and now those two are going to be costing themselves time, but they do have a decent gap to Manny K behind. About 6.3 seconds is the gap, and they're going side by side once again. Ghost trying to go round to the outside, however is going to have to back out of the move, and Ryan still remains ahead in the Red Bull for the moment, and a little bit of a mistake there from Ghost is going to cost him a little bit of time, and both cars locking up, as you can see there, as they head through, and they still carry on their scraps for P4 at the moment, and going back a little bit further up, still not ideal for Flowy. He needs to sort of get himself away, but once you're stuck in a DRS train around here, as it says, it's very difficult to get out of it. If you're the leader of this, you're just going to be kind of just swapping positions as such, and if you really look at it that way, it's one of those things where you just need to kind of accept the fact if you're not going to be able to pull away, just using the DRS of the car ahead, letting the car behind it overtake, and then shooting the DRS next time around, and hoping you're in the best position come the end of the race, because it is a long run to this start finish line on the final lap, as I say, because these laps, as I say, are ticking down at just a rate of knots. As there goes a Ghost making a move once again on the back of Ryan, and here we go in towards the first corner. Ghost once again in the Mercedes making his way through at the moment. He will of course be behind at the moment, but will be ahead of Manny K, who also has that 10-second penalty to be applied at the end of the Grand Prix. Unfortunately, if they do not opt to box again, unless there's penalty removals at the end, we'll have to see. So Ghost and Ryan continuing their battle just a little bit further up. He has caught up into this, as I say, he's still holding his position there in P3 as the Aston Martin driver, biding his time, picking his moments, whichever of those adjectives you want to use to describe what he's currently doing, just sitting behind. Maybe say you've got like a metaphorical bucket of popcorn, just waiting to see if anything does indeed happen ahead, but obviously he knows that he's in a really good position, the Aston Martin driver, and he will probably just sit behind, maybe save a lot of battery and use that to his advantage. But Flowey's going to have a go once again, 0.6 of a second though. It's going to be a little bit closer though if he's going to be able to make that move in towards the goal. Look at his deployment that he has available. He's got quite a bit of deployment actually. They're not choosing really to overtake at the moment, or any of the top three, and now realising the importance of pulling away from the cars behind and using the DRS and the DRS to pull away from the likes of Ghost and Ryan, who have been well, Ryan was unable to take position from Ghost that time around. Well, I think it's about 6, 7 to go here in this Grand. Oh, yeah, 6 to go. As Ryan, that's another penalty for Ryan. That's 6 seconds now for Ryan. But half the penalties of Ghost at the moment, but it's going to be a problem if that does indeed. I mean, if he does carry on with that, because when you get under green flag racing, is to see, as mentioned in the, I believe I mentioned the qualifying segment, it's one of those things where you're going to end up, if you're not careful with the lines when you're battling with cars ahead, you can very easily end up with penalties by just going over the white lines just one too many times, and once the penalties start adding up, it just becomes a case in point of you're just constantly doing the same thing. Maybe, although I do think in some cases it's not fully helped by the fact that the cars, well, not the cars, but the penalty track limits are just not always the most, what's the word I'm trying to think of here? What's it? They're not always they're always the same. As the Haas once again takes the lead of the Grand Prix from the McLaren driver of Markey. They don't always come through the same as what they should do. So you might pick up a warning on one lap, you'll do the same thing next time around, and you won't actually pick up a penalty. So it's one of those things where you kind of have to balance out exactly what you're doing and making sure that you're on the very ragged edge of what you can do in terms of accepting what is there, in terms of the lines that you can stay between, and making sure that you don't go over those lines. But obviously these drivers probably know well better in certain cases more than what I do about how difficult it can be. I mean, also being a lead racer myself, it's an interesting prospect when you're racing and you realise that you're battling with someone you end up being out of position for maybe a corner or in a different line that you perhaps were not expecting, and you may not always have the line you're looking for, and it's always going to be crucial to make sure that you're in the right position to take advantage of that if you're the car behind, and making sure of that. As here we go, as Flower tries maybe to try and get away, but it's not going to be able to actually get away, and as I say, it's just derating as they go down the straight, and Markey once again will lead the Grand Prix. And we're going to go back to the lead, see if there's any moves made down the straight. Here's Ryan once again, is going to make a move into turn 1. These guys, in 5th and 4th and 5th, are just losing time to the cars behind as they go side by side. As Ryan once again will have to concede position, as Ghost is still holding his position against Ryan as Ryan tries to think about a move. Ryan looking very punchy and trying to make a move all over the back of the Mercedes there, but once again it's a penalty for Ghost. Once again, it's so easy to do it. As I say, it's going to be one of those things where you could be in a really great position. I mean, I'm looking at someone a little bit further down who could be in a great position, like someone like your Jay Pinto, is also not carrying any penalties himself down in PA. Could be in a really great position to make a move, or make moves at the end with the cars ahead having penalties. I think I like Manny Kay and Luke Bailey, as I say, gaining ground on those drivers, or around about the same. As I say, Luke Bailey is also in a position of wanting to make a move pretty soon on the back of Manny Kay for P6 in this race so far, as we're on a lap 24 of 29. As I say, this race absolutely flies by just because of how short it is, and when you do really get into it, and it's a nice flow track if you actually can make it work. But the track will bite back if you do not respect the sort of the wishes and such of the limits, and what you can do with the track is with a little bit wide there. Those mediums may well be starting to maybe hurt sometime soon, and this could be the chance that Rade needs to get back into this, because if once those tires do start to go off, he's going to have to make the move when that's ready. when those tyres on that Haas do go off in front of him. As back we go with the battle for fourth as well, as Ghost still trying to make a move as we go on to, say, on lap 25, and sector 1 split at the moment. These two still battling for position, with a massive gap to Luke Bailey behind. Manny Kay not able to make a move. Oh no, well, I think actually Luke Bailey has managed to get Manny Kay. Maybe those mediums starting to perhaps drop off just a little bit, one lap older than Flowey, who's currently in second. Branch is currently just behind Santi, obviously in 10th at the moment, having obviously had to make yet another pit stop after the safety car, which was not ideal for the second of the two Mercedes here, as Ghost still carries on battling with Ryan here. These two in a little bit of their own battle at the moment, just this little two-car battle, which it has been for a little while, and obviously they'll just be swapping positions as they go through. Flowey now has dropped out of 1 second, so that is the important thing now. Verdade having to make that move out front, around about 6/10 of a second is the gap between the two of them. Ghost, I mean, well, is going to go back down the inside, as we're going to come up on 4 to go here in this Grand Prix, and what Ryan has to settle in behind thinks about it as they go into turn 1, but there's nothing that is going to be done on that particular matter, with a little bit of a rear motion from the back of the Mercedes, but does keep hold of P4 for the moment, with Ryan in P5. Verdade, meanwhile, now is going to be looking at the back of Flowey. Those tyres, I think, will be hitting the cliff this lap or next lap around, as I think, as I mentioned earlier on, under green flag racing, you probably would have been looking at about, sort of, say, 12 to 13 laps on the medium compound tyres before they really start to hit the proverbial cliff, and when they really start to drop off. Verdade doesn't look like he's making much headway at the moment, so gap to leader at the moment. He's about 2 seconds behind as Verdade, so he's still in position at the moment to be within range of Marky, but now Marky's got a chance to get away in this field. And now we're going to see if Verdade is going to be able to make his way through in towards towards turn number 1, and let's see how this indeed does go. In towards turn number 1, just a little bit more on board as he's using the battery. Not much deployment is going to be left, and very early does the Haas driver decide that that's not the best of conditions for him to battle that position in towards turn number 1, and is behind indeed. Looking at the ERS usage from the two of them, Flowey with about 44%. We obviously seen that Verdade was on a small amount of deployment due to making that overtake stick. Meanwhile, a lot in the battle for P4 still remains a status quo at the moment. It's Ghost still leading at the moment from Ryan, with these two obviously carrying quite a few penalties between the two of them. Luke Bailey now still got Manny Kay for company as well. Manny Kay looking to get back past Luke, and I think these two, as I say, once you get in a little DRS stream between two cars, you will notice that it will happen, and it looks like now Manny Kay is actually gaining ground at quite a, well, not Manny Kay, but Jay Pinto's actually gaining ground at quite a rate of knots with these two battling. And Manny Kay is going to have to be looking at her mirrors to see the fact that the Williams with no penalties is actually going to be in one hell of a great position here to take at least 2 positions if he does keep it here. Well, if they do keep it clean rather, and I think that will be in the mind of someone like Jay Pinto, who's currently just, you can see his Williams are just approaching in that rear view mirror. You can see he will be thinking about that particular matter. Meanwhile, a little bit further, Flowey now thinks about moving in towards turn number 1, but now we're going to see that soon those tyres really start to drop off. There's a penalty for the car currently running that's in this field, that being Santi, 5.2 seconds, so no real worries for him at the back of the field there. So Santi will probably be looking at probably just finishing in that P10 spot, because now we're on to the penultimate lap as Ryan and Ghost still battle for position. One of the 3 battles going on the track here. You've got the battle for second place at the moment is Verdade, about 2.8 seconds. So if Marky can't do it, he can get himself out of that 3 second zone. However, Verdade is going to have to keep them look on that gap. It's about 2 points, as I say, 2.7. He needs to keep this under 3 seconds. Does the Aston Martin driver, and he needs to not have the battle from the car behind, which is going to slow him down. Does look like there was a little bit of a mistake in one of these sectors here for Verdade, as Mark is trying to get away, make that 3-second gap work for him and see if he can still win this Grand Prix. And I think he's just crossed that 3-second margin as he gets across towards starting the final lap of this Grand Prix, lap number 29 of 29. And indeed we have now indeed gone on to that final lap, and running out of opportunity for Flyway now. I think those tyres are indeed going to be starting to go off soon. He's not going to get the position there as we got a yellow flag. I believe that is the Mercedes at the back of the field. That is Santi, who's had an issue at the rear of the field, and Ryan has changed position once again, getting past in towards turn number 1 into P4 now for him. Let's see if there's going to be any movements from Manny K, and I don't think there will be though. Too far back, and there's Jay Pinto there, 1.4 seconds, and is closing in just a little bit, but now just has to kind of sit behind really, because one car in front of him has about 10 seconds of penalties, and the other one has about 3 seconds, 6 seconds of penalties. So, as I say, it's always an interesting one to see how that will all play out, but we're going to have to see how this all plays out as we go through. We're coming through towards the end of this race with only a sector to go for the leader of this Grand Prix. Ghost is still, meanwhile, all over the back of them. The gloves will be off now as they're running out of opportunities. As I can now see definitely the reasons why Ryan is struggling. He's, I think, I'm not sure if I can see, there's like an actual end player missing potentially off that Red Bull. Ghost trying to go round the outside here and try and see what he can do, as we're going to go on board with the leader who's coming through the final couple of corners. Marquis, as I say, has managed to pull it off. He's going to have about 4/10 in pocket, even with that 3-second penalty. Verdade's going to have to settle for P2. But a great drive there from Marquis. We'll see him through finish by half a 6/10 of a second. And second and third will be Verdade and Falawi, who will finish in those positions. And it's going to be side by side almost as they try and come towards the line. Who's got more ERS here? Goes for that 10-second penalty. Will finish behind, but that was a great run to the line between the two of them. And now we've got Jay Pinto now, Manny K out 1 second in this final run towards the final corner. Is going to be anything for Jay Pinto here as he comes towards the line, trying to use the batteries as there's the penalty. Jay Pinto, as I said there, keeping it clean. That's a great result there from the Williams driver. He's going to finish in P5, so great little showing there, just keeping it clean. Only 2 drivers in the end kept it clean, that being Marky and Jay Pinto, and they both, well not Marky, but Verdade rather, who kept it clean. And it's a great job there as Brand comes home in P9. And finally Santi will be your final runner there. Evening to yourself there. Hope you're doing well. Just at the end of the race. And there's Santi coming home in P10. So driver of the day award is going to go to Ghost, I believe. That one was for positions gained for him. So we'll see if that one comes to at the end of that one. So there is your podium rostrum. It is Marquis who finished on top, Verdade in second, and then it was Flower who finished in P3. So great results for all those drivers as such. So we'll get through results in just a second, but we'll see the drivers just display the champion in just a second. So congratulations to your top 3 on that rostrum, and as I say, we'll have a look just in a brief second about where we're going to be next. For this particular for PGS. We will be back to normal service next week. I believe Casper's back in the box next week. So your race results. It is Marky who wins from pole position. The only thing he doesn't have is fast lap of the Grand Prix. Joining him in the podium was indeed Verdade and Flowey, second and third. Ryan will finish in 4th. Jay Pinto, great showing from him, P5. I'm really tempted to actually give him driver of the day actually, because no penalties for him means that he kept it clean and he got P5 in the end. So he's going to pick up my driver of the day. Ghost will finish in P6 with Luke Bailey in P7. Manny K in P8. Brantastic in 9th and Santi in 10th. Your non-finishers were Linguini and the Wilkin. So, if you bear with me just a moment, I'm going to have a quick look at where we're going to be in the next showing one. Yeah, so yeah. So your next showing, we will be in Spain for the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya, and I believe it will be to normal service as normal. It will be in Tier 1 box. It will be Casper back in the box, and I will be back. If you're interested in the Tier 2 channel, well, for Tier 2 that's going to be covered on the second channel for anyone who is indeed interested. So, with that all said and done, we will round off here, and for hopefully everyone enjoyed the race as such, and we'll see you next week out in the race in Barcelona.